Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible for healing. And we're already having a good time around here this morning with these beautiful, lovely ladies of the ancestors within. Recognize and embrace the gifts of your origins. These author experts are here to celebrate an upcoming book that we have going on. And I cannot wait to share their messages with you today. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
I am so super happy to have you guys here. I have Andrea Venny. She's the founding director and chief visionary officer of, okay, I asked you before, I'm not sure how to say it, Adivas Oasis. Or would you like me to say the initials? Okay, I'm good to go. And so, okay, say the other one, Save the World. Yeah. Okay, good. Where they empower individuals to reclaim their life through personal development, to experience true freedom and fulfillment in the world. I have Laura Mazzata with me. She's a spiritual empowerment coach who empowers women to ditch doubt and indecision so they can thrive personally and professionally. And Miss Carolyn McGee's purpose is to help women break lifelong patterns of how they show up and understand the relationship to themselves, others, money, and spirit by trusting their intuition. Yeah, we're going to have a fun conversation today. So, Andrea, you're going to start this party off. Tell us about the amazing chapter that you wrote for the Ancestors Within.
I would be happy to do so. So my chapter is chapter 12, and it's the gift of sight. Alchemizing your experiences using a daily MRI. Now, this chapter is kind of fun and quirky. I talk about my personal experience as a child, but essentially it focuses on being able to manifest using dreams and how all of us have that ability. And it's just about tapping into that and harnessing it and alchemizing it for our own personal benefit. So, in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, I need more. So talk to us a little bit about like how this whole thing got started for you. Tell me a little bit about your story there.
So, funny you asked that. So I dream. I am a dreamer, just I'm sure as a lot of people are. When I was a child, I used to always have all these dreams, and specifically as it relates to the book, I dreamed a lot about a particular situation in school that basically came true. And I didn't realize the power of this, but I was so tormented by it. But we were in school, and kids basically this event kept happening where kids were falling, and I would have this reoccurring dream that it was me, that it was happening to me. And eventually this did in fact happen. And so it became my reality. Now, over time, I would also have other dreams that actually meant something. And I would always talk to my mom about it. I didn't realize that my mom was a dreamer, her mother was a dreamer, and it was like passed down in our family, and that this, in fact, was a gift. And I was blown away by that. And so finding this out was like, it was amazing.
Daddy, you're giving me goosebumps about that. That's like amazing. Okay, so just for our listeners too, when you say dreams though, are you talking about like nighttime dreams, like sleepy dreams? Are you talking about daydreams? Tell us more about that piece?
So it started out nighttime sleepy dreams. So nighttime dreaming, and the dreams being so vivid, graphic. And not just like, how they tell you, well, what did you eat before you went to sleep? What did you watch? Like that kind of thing. It was dreams that were so random but had a lasting impression. Like I would wake up and it was like things that like didn't make sense. I remember specifically like I would always dream that I was on this icebreaker, and I would go out on the icebreaker, which is a ship that usually goes into the Arctic, and it goes out and it breaks the ice right? It's like Coast Guard ships usually have them. So I would go out on the ship and I would be barefoot and I would have a cold. And I would go out there and I would lick my lips and my lips would get frozen shut. And I would try to open the door, but the door would be shut, closed. And I would try to get back in and I would be frozen. I would like and I couldn't get back in and I would wake back up and I remember seeing like the red and the white and the icebergs and I would wake up out of my sleep like and it would stay with me so much and I didn't know to like look up different things, but I was like, why is this? And it stayed with me and I still to this day have those kinds of dreams, but I didn't know that they actually meant something. And it was like different dreams as well, but nighttime dreams that eventually led to daytime dreams after I learned how to meditate and realize the power of it.
Yeah, that's so perfect. Andrea, thank you. Oh my goodness. I can't wait for people to read that chapter and really
Mhm.
have a whole different idea about what is possible. So, of course, that is part of the mission here today. Thank you. And thank all of you for saying yes to this and for offering your beautiful, vulnerable stories and master tools. This book is really a toolkit of possibility. I get excited about this. And I don't want to forget to say a huge thank you to Amy Gillespie Doherty for just getting this stellar group of author experts together, but also for Amy, for your big vision and what you saw happening with this ancestral healing topic. And this is the third book in her series, you guys. This has been a really big vision. So Amy, we love you and would not be here without you. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. So, okay, so Carolyn, we have you next. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Okay, so my chapter is about my family of farmers. It's called A Plant Cutting from Grandma, Energy for Growth, Nurturing, and Self-Love. And my mother's family has been in the United States since the very early 1600s. There is actually a marker where the family farm used to be in Massachusetts. And over time, they moved north, which is where I grew up, but they're all farmers, and all the way, the lineage all the way down is connecting with the animals and nurturing for plants. So I did not realize until I moved from Massachusetts to North Carolina, my deep connection with the plants. Now I knew that I was connected. Everyone in my family has beautiful gardens. I have parts from my great-grandmother's irises. I mean, we hand plants down. And but when I went to move and have my plants temporarily stay someplace else, I felt like a part of me was literally ripped out of my body. So it was the deep giving and taking and understanding at a deeper level just how connected we really are. It truly is the infinity cycle. It's us giving to the plants and the animals, which includes the earth, and us receiving from them. And it was just, I still get chills on my arms when I think about that moment when I got it at that really core level, at that soul level.
You must have been eavesdropping on a conversation I was having just before I came on to this interview with you ladies. My sister and I were talking about plants, and she's like, sis, I am a garden geek. And I have just, I can root a plant and I'm making the clippings of the plants. And she just brought my mom and I a little plant, all potted up as a gift. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is the joy in this? It's big, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, yes. And you're talking about the connection, which just took me a step further. I'll have to call her back later and talk to her about what she said about that. What else do you want to tell us about that?
It's opening ourselves up to receive. We're all nurturers, especially if you're a gardener. You've got that energy of nurturing. If you have pets, personal pets, you've got that energy of caring for them. And sometimes we can slide into the caretaker role and forget that those plants, those animals, they have their own sentience. They have their own energy. They have their own awareness and consciousness, and they can provide a lot of peace and joy and nurturing to us. So my tool talks about, how do you receive? Learning how to receive. And it's really shifted my life. And I was deeply connected. That was my meditation spot. I would go out and deadhead my plants to connect with nature. But knowing now, and actually I can see the energy exchanging, I can feel it and moving it. And it's just so powerful for people to be able to do that. And you can do it by having a single plant in an apartment. As a college kid, I don't know why I had a little spider plant from my great grandmother. That was my plant. That was my connection, and a single goldfish.
Yes. I love this topic so much. We're going to do a project next year called Go Outside and Play. And it's going to be about gardening and earth and all of that type of nature connection. Can't wait for that. I love the feel of this, Carolyn, and of your chapter. Can't wait for people to read the rest of it and practice your tool and all of your tools. We have master teachers on board in this book. Y'all spent a lifetime's worth of effort and time honing their craft, their tools, their strategies, their practices that they incorporate in their daily lives to live an amazing life. And we're sharing them with you. And I don't know, I'm so grateful to you all for being such badasses. Laura, you ready to share about your chapter?
Absolutely. So my chapter is chapter 23, Ancestral Relationships, Deepening Intimacy to Enrich Understanding. So this is really all about, one of the things that I was caught in for years and decades of my life was blame, blaming people in my family. And there was a lot of intimacy through negativity in my family, so it was like, oh, we're going to get together and complain about this person, or we're going to get together and complain about that person. Right. And that when they do that, they then feel connected and a sense of belonging. And what happens is we then wire our brains to associate negativity with belonging, and then we seek it out. And so it's really my mission in this chapter to be able to introduce people to cultivating relationships with ancestors that are in spirit, because when we do that, we have this overarching view, right? Without the conditioning of the human, without all the stories that we've all bounced off of each other or crashed into each other for that matter, and develop these belief systems as negativity and blame that really takes away from our power and our personal responsibility. And so we can develop relationships with our ancestors in spirit completely separate from how we've envisioned them or interacted with them in human form. And it's so brilliant that we have access to this information so that we can not just plan our pathway forward, but really determine what's the purpose of my lineage, not just me, and not just the big collective, but the little microcosm of me and my family, right? That we're working together. We're in this together. We're not against one another. And so just raising awareness about that and teaching them how to start cultivating these relationships so that that intimacy is there without the negativity and blame.
You gave me a wonderful light bulb just now. I was writing it down. If you guys look at me, and I'm like this, I'm scribbling notes. We've been conditioned to connect negativity to the belonging. That's a big deal if you really think about that for a minute. I have been in circles with friends and family where I made the choice to shut down the conversation because I could feel the negativity, venting, gossipy BS. And, I want to make my life more positive and more high vibe. It's important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and the other thing too is that doesn't mean we can't vent. It doesn't mean we can't share, but at the same time that you're taking responsibility. So in this chapter, I share about how, I had all this blame, and then I thought it was because my parents said this and because this and that. And really it was because of my own interpretation. Let's be real, right? It was my own interpretation. And sure, some of that was impacted and developed through my conditioning, but there comes a point where you take responsibility for how you've interpreted and responded. We're all here with this unique energetic makeup, right? And nobody knows really exactly what we're here for, except for spirit, except for our soul. And so, that's where all the judgment and the blame gets thrown around. But, we really need to say, I used to think taking ownership and responsibility for everything that's come into my life is blaming myself. And it's not. It's actually stepping into your power, because you're able to say, okay, that's unfolded, but I get to choose how it unfolds now.
Yeah, with awareness, you get the choice. That's the ultimate freedom. Same. I'll go ditto on that. There was a time where someone would have said that to me and I would have been like, take responsibility for everything? Are you kidding me? And today I'm like, yes, I get to take responsibility for all of it. And another great thing you just said, taking responsibility for how you've interpreted something. Of course, as a kid, childhood, this happens as adults usually. If we're lucky, early adults, we realize these things. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, I mean, just like I see it in my children. You know what I mean? Like I see how they interpret things, and it's really guiding them. It's cool because since I have intuitive practice, I can guide them into really how to listen to their gut and how to really find their own clarity outside of everybody else's messages. And that's why I think I even said in this chapter, I really want this to be a message that we can pass on to or model for the youth of the world, so that we can grow up with this greater awareness earlier. Like you said, the earlier we catch it, the better.
That'll be one of the greatest gifts we give our kids for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. All right, I'm going to get to this next question for all of you. And Carolyn, I'm going to start with you for this one. So when you learned about ancestral healing, like back when you learned about this, that it was possible to connect with your ancestors and work through all of these different kinds of modalities that help us heal the things in our lives going on now that we want to change, right? Like when you figured out about this whole topic, tell us about an aha moment that you had. What did you realize was possible?
For me, it was the thrill of being the center. A lot of my work, my intuitive work, is based on our heart is the center of everything. And I realized that I am the center of my family. I can change me to change my children and my grandchildren to come. And I can change my mother and her mother, who's in spirit, by changing me. And I don't need to do anything to them. And the first time I saw it, there's a lot of anxiety and depression. That's like a thing in my mother's family. And as I worked on me, I saw my daughter heal and my mother heal. And I'm grateful because they're both here. So I could physically experience the shift. And I'm getting all teary, but seeing the two people on either side of me change because I took the risk or decided that I wanted to live better. It's just so amazing. It really is.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful aha. One of the most profound ways that diving into ancestral healing. I think also as healers, sometimes we go into this journey thinking, oh, we got to help everybody. We got to fix everyone else. We got to do it. No, like starting here is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Because energetically, then you're right, it moves out into all directions. I am grateful to have daughter and mom, son and grandparents still around. And I think about that a lot. So I appreciate you using that example. It's awesome. And your why makes you cry. Right. So, these interviews, I'm telling you, it's like, oh, there's that why again. I love that. Laura, how about you? Give us a personal aha when you realized in terms of ancestral healing, like just what was possible for you.
Yeah. So one of the things, there's so many, I could talk about this for 6 hours. However, I'd say the biggest one for me was the realization that I can literally change my physical body. And, when I got sepsis 6 years ago and I was 30 minutes from not being here anymore, I look back at the people in my family who have passed so early from this, that, or the other. And being able to, like, that for me was a huge aha of, I get to change this pattern, that I get to actually shift the way that my physical body is expressing whatever it's been holding from myself, from my ancestry, from past lives, whatever you believe in. Right. And then I get to actually shift how my physical body shows up. That was like mind blowing to me, that with my thoughts, with my intention, with my energy work and my connections with my ancestors, that we together can craft a new story for our physiological health. Craziness.
I love that so much also. And I hear you with there's so many things, right? There's so many moments, aha moments. We could talk about it all day, but that's a big one. I want listeners to really understand the possibility there. Just because families have heart disease and, you think it's coming down the line to you, and all of a sudden you've been taught that because it's in the line, you're about to get it or whatever, or that you can't change anything that is going on now. This is such a big deal to understand the possibility here. It gives people hope. And that's what we're doing really in the chapters as well, especially when we talk about these things. Maybe you never heard that you could change your physiology by connecting with your ancestors in different ways, right? It's a big deal.
Very big
Awesome.
deal. Mm-hmm.
Super awesome. All right. Andrea, I want to hear yours too. Can't wait.
Oh my God, I could listen to everybody here all day and ask questions and For me, I feel like I look at it from a slightly different perspective, in that how we often think that when we pass, like, it's over. I know you guys in this group, we know that that's a little different, right? Because we're talking about our ancestors. But the gift about ancestral healing, from my perspective, is that who better to help us and our family than our ancestors, right? It's the gift that keeps giving. And you know how we always say, if I could do it over, I would. And I look at it as, if we allow ourselves to stay connected to our families, our ancestors who passed, they are speaking to us and telling us, hey, if I could do it over, I would do this. So do that. Don't do this. Fix that. Do this better. And they know us because it's our DNA. It's our lineage. It's our line, and I feel like that is the best avenue to do better, right? And if we allow ourselves to connect and to heal that, and to not just allow it to be cut off and like, oh, well, they're dead, they're gone, and I'm moving on with my life, you allow for a richer life within yourself and for the family to come. So it's what, like you say, Laura, like, what's possible within you to open up and to expand. And then not only do you get to heal, like, backwards and forward, and it's almost like I see like the heart within oneself expand. And when you do that within your own family line, like, it explodes, and then the world sees that light, and that light heals. So that's what I believe is possible and what excites me. And I've experienced it personally, and I am beginning to see the change of it within my family. And that excites me because of the possibilities to come.
Oh my goodness. You three just hit on some of the biggest possibilities with this. Okay, for listeners who might be hearing about this topic for the first time, or they're skeptical or whatever, right? We know you're open because you're listening. And what I want you to know about what Andrea just said is, just because they've passed doesn't mean you can't still connect and hear the messages. And we have expert authors who will teach you specific meditations to be able to do that, specific ceremony and ritual meditation, other kinds of practical ways where you can quiet yourself enough, connect with that ancestral energy and that ancestor, and hear messages of the things that you were saying, which are just made me smile. It's like, no, I did it wrong. You need to try it this way, like, let's figure this out. Like, they're there to help you and show you that way. And I think that in the beginning of my journey, this topic would have been, whew, like, what? But it is so exciting to understand this. And thank you all for just so brilliantly answering that question. So the next one is really about something that you've all been talking about already, feeling awareness, right? You're all really offering gifts of awareness in your chapters, both with your stories and your tools. And for me, feeling is healing, and feeling is an awareness practice. So helping people to feel is really part of this whole deal for me. And some of us have been taught not to feel, and that can be an issue. So as an adult, like Laura said, when you're taking responsibility for, what you're thinking and believing and how you're acting about things these days, part of that responsibility is to come back into your body and really ask yourself, what am I feeling? So what I thought I could ask you all to share, and Laura, you're first up with this one. What's that personal practice of awareness look like in your house, in your day? Give us one simple idea of part of what you do for that.
One?
Yeah, I know. It's so unfair.
Come on.
I know. You
All
get
right.
one. The other ladies are like, don't tell me 10 because I need to have an answer here too. It's hard to go last on that question.
All right, listen, I'll pick one that's kind of off the beaten path. So that, okay. So for me, honestly, one of the things that brings me right into that feeling state and right into like immediate connection is chanting, honestly. And that surprises me because I didn't know what chanting was, and I had no idea until I actually felt it. Like, I didn't understand the depth of its impact until I felt it, but I can just jump into a chant and man, I am Zen immediately, and I am like clear and aware and present, and it's beautiful.
Oh, I love that. I was just reading about this a little more. I've read a lot about chanting in the last year or so. And maybe you could explain it a little bit for our listeners, the vibration you create in your body. So continue that sentence.
Exactly. That's what's so cool. Oh,
yeah.
I get excited because when you chant, it does, like, you are generating a frequency within your body that lines up with the frequency of the universe. You're like creating an energetic match within you to whatever chant you happen to choose. It could be a match to Mother Earth. It could be a match to the universe. It could be a match to your ancestral line if you get that information from them once you cultivate those relationships. But that it's so empowering at the same time that it's soothing, because you're generating this from within you. You're generating vibration. And that's the kind of shift and the kind of palpable control really that we have over our next steps.
Are you a fan of the Om, or is there something else for you?
Well, I'm kind of a fan of all of it, but
okay.
I do like the Om, especially when I have a cold, because it's nice and deep and guttural and I sound like a man and it's fabulous. And so, so the Om is great, but I also I actually find a lot of solace in the ritualistic practice of learning a really complicated chant. Because you have to be really focused and really present, and it's not a language that's native to you. And so but once you master it, you feel like the biggest rock star on the planet. And it's great because no matter where you are, you could just spout it off and bring yourself back to that frequency.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
that mini education too. Okay, Andrea, how about you? Tell us about one, I know, just one piece of your practice. I know we all have toolkits of multiple things. And I guess one thing to say to our listeners too is, like, one day you might pull out the chant. One day you might pull out something different because the chanting just isn't feeling right. So it's great to have lots of ideas, right? So Andrea, what's yours?
So first of all, Laura, thank you for that because I was so going to say that the vibrational thing, even with music. Oh my God, yeah, thank you. So ding, 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 high five on all that. So one of mine would be breath. The power of breath. So in my meditation, I do breath work. The inhale of the three, 6, and 9. However, even if you don't have a formula for breath work, just breathing to connect, slow down, and just be present is powerful. Because as I say, the power of the pause is essential to slowing down. It's important to breathe before you respond or react. I say react before you react. The power of the pause helps with speaking. The power of the pause helps transform and alchemize a lot of things. So mine is simply breathing to be present, to calm down, and just to connect with myself. And also even in yoga and stuff, it really allows the muscles to relax. Breath is so powerful. And I don't think a lot of people understand exactly how powerful it is. It's the reason why in childbirth, when we go through, such pain, the contractions, and you go through Lamaze, why they say, to breathe into it. Our muscles they relax, and it sounds crazy that breath can do that, but it does. When you actually connect and you focus on breath, the psyche allows the body to literally relax into the pain, and we can take a lot more than we realize. So mine for me is breath.
That's a profound one that I think all of us would say, yeah, that's part of my toolkit. And probably every author in all of our healing books will also raise their hand for that, because it's also probably the quickest access point to helping your nervous system drop down a notch, right? With even one deeper breath. Love that one. Such a profound modality. Thank you, Andrea. How about you, Carolyn?
So for mine, it's conscious movement. I've got a technology background and I'm highly spiritual. So I can spend a lot of time up here in my head. It's a great place to be, but I can't take action on things, or I can't feel my body. I can't remember if it was Andrea or Laura that talked about feeling your body and your energy. But if I can't do that, if I get disconnected, I get into pushing and doing instead of being. And being is that receiving, being is that connection. So sometimes it's just something as simple as standing and doing the power pose, the hands on the hips, or the epic stance, the superwoman thing. Or I walk to my door and look outside, or I walk outside for a few minutes, or I go grab my cat and we do a little, boogie woogie in the middle of the living room. It doesn't really matter what energy movement I make. It's the fact that I am moving, and 2 minutes of moving shifts my energy completely. So it doesn't have to be highly involved or a practice. It's the practice of moving.
I love it. And also, I would imagine we'll all raise our hand to therapeutic movement of some kind. And what I love about these tools, you guys, is let's just combine them all. We're chanting, so we're breathing. And if we do that in a yoga pose, we're also moving. So,
Yes.
And when you're finished, open up your journal. And that's the one that I want to add is, write your heart out. Like move what's inside to the outside, process through. Journaling is one of my go-tos in terms of this, just helping myself feel and practice awareness, really, which is all of you are talking about those beautiful, beautiful tools. And of course, there are about 1,000 more, which is why for these books, you guys, we want all the voices. We want all the tools. We want to show you that if you've tried 10 things already and you're feeling hopeless, guess what? There's one more to try. there's something else, a way that you haven't heard something said before or explained to you. And when you light up with that aha, everything can change from that one moment that you woke up to what was possible there. So again, all of you, thank you so much for doing that so brilliantly in your chapters. It's one thing, you know, y'all are master teachers. You can sit across from somebody and teach all day long, but to get it in words on paper in a way that a reader can have the experience of, it's not always easy. So I appreciate all of you for doing that so brilliantly. So I've got one more for all of you. Andrea, I'm going to go back to you to start with this one. And I love the community that we have built. And community to me, honestly, has been the difference between success and failure. It feels like in life, in business, everything, the circle of people that I get to play in the sandbox with every day has made the difference for me. And I know for all of you too. So I want to hear about your community and what that's meant to you.
I love the question, and my answer to community, I'll start from the end and work backwards. I realize that community is everything. As humans, we are not meant to be isolated. And it took me being in community, isolating myself, to understand the need to be back in community. So there's a greater appreciation for it now, because in the isolation, I realized how quickly I began to spiral, downfall, and deteriorate essentially. So now understanding that community was a great part of my healing, and building up myself and in my image and my just everything, my spirit, and how I saw myself, and even how other, how someone else can see you before you see yourself. So that was key to community. I couldn't do that by myself. So having community, a sisterhood, a brotherhood was essential. And that is understanding as humans, we need each other, that connectedness to grow and heal. So I understand the value of it, and I am so appreciative of it now than what I did previously.
Beautiful, Andrea. Thank you for that. Yes to all of that. Carolyn, what would you add about this for you? What's the community meant to you?
I am one of the very fortunate people that grew up in a community. My mother had 3 sisters. They literally went home to mom with all the kids every summer. We spent 3 months running wild near a river, 2 big gardens with my grandparents. And it was, the parents were the rulers. You said yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, to anybody who's asked you to do something. But we all took turns. We learned how to get along in a bigger thing. We learned the power of, it's easier to do something when you've got a group of people. And through my life, kind of like Andrea, when I became isolated in any situation and cut off from that community, it was as if I had lost a limb. I just wasn't as powerful. I wasn't as able to connect. And, hindsight being 2020, I can look back and see how in school I created community. When I went to college, I did. When I did in my jobs, I created community. I created a woman's community. I've created a community in my new home that I just moved to. It's just this innate need for me. And if it doesn't exist, then I create it. So yeah, very powerful.
Awesome. I love that. I'm totally on the farm every time you talk. I'm just like right there with you and the cows. Laura, you're going to close us out today. Tell us what you want to add about community.
Yeah, so I love this because I was talking about this a little bit in my chapter too, this concept of it takes a village. And it's funny because I grew up in a in a household where, you know, it was really more along the lines of American society, where you're kind of, you go do your thing. Everybody grows up and does their thing, right? And then I joined a family, my husband's Italian, where everybody takes care of each other. And it's like this, we're all helping each other grow and thrive. And I love that so much, because it's that concept of like, you know, if I have a certain skill and so has a certain skill, we can kind of put them together. I don't want to do what they're doing. They don't want to do what I'm doing. And so to be able to find that balance, and I think coming from a history of codependency in my family and being able to realize we get to do this together and assist one another without having to need one another at the point where, you know, I can't breathe without you. You know, we're collaborating rather than being, I guess, super dependent on each other. I guess losing ourselves in it, if that makes sense.
Totally. I like thinking about it in that way, and feels like some of that is just, oh my goodness, so much healthier
Mm.
than some of the patterns that we get into.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, again, thanking Amy for the community that she's built around the Ancestors Within, the book series. There's about to be a summit at the end of the year. This book is book 3, and just repeating that whole title, Recognize and Embrace the Gifts of Your Origins. Authors, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. So you guys, you are invited to our live stream book launch party on June 7th at noon Eastern. And I'll gather with all of the Ancestors Within authors. We'll be doing some fun giveaways. You're going to find us on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I have you hooked up down below for that. If you heard something today from one of these amazing authors and you got the goosebumps or just ignited that spark in you, well, go on down to the show notes and you'll find their websites. Click and explore. These women are doing amazing things in the world, and they are so very generously there for you to ask a question, get support, take the next step. But at least come on and explore their websites, see what they're up to. Who knows? You could learn something that might change everything. And of course, if you're listening to this after June 7th of 2022, then hop over to Amazon, because that means our book is ready for you to purchase and you can get your copy and start your amazing journey today. Lastly, everybody, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Bye, ladies.